All right. So, welcome back to the Dante Raw podcast. Today, I'm joined by Tony Genius, who is an adult film star, actor, model, and who's built a name for himself in an industry that's often, or actually not often, talked about, and even, I would say, less understood. And we're here today to have an open and honest conversation about adult film work and surrounding topics, its challenges, and the reality behind the scenes. Tony, thanks for stopping in, my friend.
What's up? How we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. I always get like a really good vitalizing energy when, people want to talk about career and things
Uh,
that people just don't know, about us. Like it gives us that, humanizing moment, which I really love. I get a lot of, spark for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. You used the word humanize. That was one of the things that sort of was the impetus to get me to want to just get involved in what I do currently, which is podcasting and having conversations like this, not just with people that do adult film work and all that, with other areas that I find interesting because I feel like the humanization of people that, especially that do adult film work, I would think anyone who's done it even for a little bit of time understands that you are a product and there's all the humanity is kind of stripped out of it because you're meant to be a fantasy, right? And that doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing, but when you're a product and you're being shown in a way that's meant to be a fantasy, let's say when people run into you, if they do, like in real life, they expect the fantasy to be on full display, as it were. Anyway. Has that happened to you? Have you had moments like that where someone's come up to you and been like, "Hey, Tony Genius, oh my lord," and then they kind of expect something from you, whether it be your time or whatever. Walk me through that if that's happened to you.
Yeah. Luckily, like being a quote unquote porn star, it comes with only certain territories where you're like feel hounded or where people are like, oh my God, I notice him. Where I can do most things and not have to like worry about that, like a normal celebrity, which that part is nice because I like having somewhat of a private life, and being able to do stuff like that. And almost in all instances, here's an example. I was in Japan. Wild. Just in Japan, in Nikko, in the hill, in a mountain, town, just doing some exploring. I was in like a gift shop or whatever it was. And a lady walks up to me, a young lady, maybe she was like mid-20s, and she was just like, she was like, "Oh my God, Tony, I love your work." And I'm just like, for me, I'm not expecting some lady in Japan to be like, "I've seen Tony Genius." Like, what? Okay. And I was like, like, and I was with my partner, and we would, just gift shopping, to bring stuff back for our memories, and so I wasn't really like, I guess I didn't give her the energy, I guess, that she really wanted. And so she was just like, oh, and as she like walked away, she was like, oh, well, I guess it was nice meeting you. And it was like, oh, like, whoops, my bad. I guess I didn't give you enough. I was like, oh, thank you. I mean, I said thank you, like, and I just went back to looking at gifts. I don't know. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, like, jump through a hoop. She didn't have one, so I couldn't do that. But it was like she walked away from a group of other people that she knew. She must not have wanted them to know that she knew who I was. So that was also a little
Maybe.
interesting tidbit. It was like a quick, like, oh, while they're going that way, let me stop back and say, oh my God, Tony, like, I love your work. And it's like, okay.
Right.
But most
Right.
of the time, I don't know. Most of the time, it's in the times when people approach me, it's in instances where I'm out and about in places where I'm expecting to meet and greet people. So, it's like the energy is there, the vibe is there, um, it makes it so much easier for me to engage. There's only certain times where, I've had just that kind of feeling where someone's like, oh, you're not exactly what I thought you would be, like, or whatever, and it's just more like, because you're just seeing me in regular life, like in a regular place. I don't
That I
know.
get
Like,
that.
you're not seeing me in my porn persona. You're not seeing me on set. You're not seeing me at an award show. You're not seeing me, you know what I mean? Like, there's still a difference. I'm still a human, right? Like, I'm still a regular guy. My real name is not Tony Genius, Like, so sometimes when I'm out and about, I'm just the regular guy.
Yeah. 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 Um, I Tell me if you, this is kind of the more superficial side of it, but it is still fun to talk about. Do you, when celebrities, the people that have like, of various vocations, they've talked about on reality shows, I'm sorry, on talk shows where they describe it as like the look, like it's the energy. and they know exactly what's coming, and they're like, oh, they'll see a person that kind of gives them this look like, I a look of recognition or some
Yeah.
vague trace recognition, and you think to yourself, okay, let's see if they say something. And I've been in positions where that's occurred, and knowing it's going to happen before like they've even approached me, let's say, and they'll be like, "Hi, did you were you in like they'll make some vague reference without really saying what it is, and I almost always just to sort of have some fun, I'll be like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. If they even say my name or a reference to the name, or if they say like Damon something, right? No, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Does that have you? Oh shit, my camera. Has that is that something that you have you ever kind of like played around like that, or has it just been more like you're more straight laced with it?
No, I mean, I've played with it sometimes, definitely, where, a lot of times it's more people run into me and they say, like, you look so familiar. And
Uh,
that gives it away to me, like, because you're probably watching porn. Because there's no other instance where you would just randomly bump into me and think, I look so familiar. Or it's like, I've had people think I was somebody else, like an athlete. Like, who was it? One of these coaches' sons or something that's now like gearing up to go into college and whatever. So these like three black guys walked up to me at the gym, and I could tell. I seen them kept looking at me, and I was like, they're gonna come over here. I could feel it. Like I don't know why, but I can feel it. And then one of them walked over, and he was like, "Hey, are you so and so's son?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah. I'm just over here at this regular ass LA Fitness. But I got my rich father, and like I don't have my own private gym. It's crazy." Oh, and then I'm like,
I'm
and then
sorry,
I
they
get
thought
to
you were
know
like,
I'm playing, I'm like, oh, I'm just kidding.
sure.
It's obviously not me. I'm not who you thought that was. I'm not that
Uh, I say,
wide receiver or whoever you think of.
yeah. Oh, so they thought you were like a professional athlete's son.
Yeah, yeah, like
I
someone
see.
like
Okay.
it's like, damn, you have to build like the because I mean when I go to the gym and not to be like that creep guy, but I like wear like the most skimpiest shit on purpose just to see who's looking. Because for me, it's like it's interesting. Like I mean, I could tell who like for the most part the gay guys in the gym, like they're wearing the almost nothing or the looks, but it's the straight guys, right? Or the guys who consider them straight, and then it's like. I go into the locker room and it's like a different look. They're like all looking hard, they're lifting, and then they get in that locker room. They're like, "What you got? What you got under that towel?" It's like, oh, so I don't know. I get like a rush of just being like, these guys look at you and they're like, oh shit, this guy looks muscular and hot. I'm gonna try to get at him, even though that they wouldn't normally get at a guy in public. And so that's like
Interesting.
my little thing at the gym. Is like I like to wear little skimpy clothes, so then people can be like, oh, okay.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, gym culture as it relates to, people that do adult film work, I mean, they become, at least in my experience, when I being around them, when I've worked out at gyms, because I think it's practically a second home for a lot of gay men is the gym, right? They're almost like when you see them, they're like a sort of a Haley's Comet, they're like, oh, wow, there he is, or there she is.
Yeah.
And, what's interesting is, I mean, you touched on a few things that I think have, when you start like scratching a little bit below the surface, it has some really interesting underpinnings to it. Even just your anecdote about, being in the locker room and having someone be a little bit more, if not just completely more, I guess, laying bare their attraction towards you, where in other circumstances they wouldn't. We don't, these are people, I mean, we're assuming now that because there's so many people that I think will, I don't know, it has tetherings to, I think, people's issue and their own insecurities with sex, and they're also their own sexual, attraction and how that is received socially, and not to mention how it's received with themselves. I mean, porn stars like yourself, they sort of have to walk that line where they are approached or they are looked at by people that socially cannot, at least I would phrase it, cannot really entertain that for whatever reason, whether it be religious reasons, whether it be, familial pressure, which could be related to religion. Well, like, I mean, for yourself now, like, was that something that you've experienced where you've been like the receiving end of someone? I mean, you just referenced that, but has it been has that ever been taken further where like you've been approached by someone that said, "Hey, listen, I can't, I'm not out or I'm not gay, I'm straight, but can I get your, just what has that ever occurred to or not occurred, but has that happened to you? Have you received anything like that?"
Yeah, I think mostly it would happen, that scenario would happen more so in Atlanta. I think it also has to have in different areas where in Atlanta there was a lot more DL black men, like I guess, that were with women, you know, and then they wanted to be friends with guys that they could possibly do stuff with that would never get out, right? And so there was definitely guys that would approach me at the gym when I was in Atlanta and just be like, "Hey, what's up, bro? Like trying to get me figure out my name, whatever." And then say they want to, lift with me. Never mentioning anything sexual, never saying I look good, never mentioning anything that would make me think that that's what they were looking for, right? And then I'd start getting texts like, "Oh yeah, here's my number. Like, I come at this time of the day. I come 7 days a week. Like, if you want to come and live with me, cool." And then I started getting texts like different texts. Now all of a sudden, it's like you know, and you look so good. And I was like, oh, this turned different real fast. So I just think that it just depends. Like there's a whole obviously spectrum of closeted men and what they accept or what others they allow to accept. So I don't know. I do deal with it, and I've seen it a lot where it's like that, where it's like, oh, I can't do that or I can't do this, or well, they have to act a certain way until all of a sudden in the DMs, what they think is obviously way more private,
But
now they can reach out and be like, hey, starts like those innuendos. Like, we should kick it at your house now. Well, that was fast. Like, we didn't even hang out and work out yet. So, like, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic, to navigate.
right, right. And to sort of, to also kind of be, I was a little careless in my phrasing when I first offered it to you. It's certainly not only porn actors that receive this
Right, right,
or
right.
gay porn actors, certainly, same sex attraction as it plays out socially and
It's
many different circumstances.
yeah,
I'm just more so referring to that in general, but I feel like as it relates to, porn stars, that has an interesting dynamic to it because you would think they'd be less inclined, given that that you're well known, and they would maybe feel less um, because they value that sort of anonymity. They don't want to have anything drawn to that. Uh, it's just interesting to me when that has happened. I'm like, it's an interesting like uh, sort of object of attention for yourself, given that this person's so well known. If because a lot of these people are not, some of them who feel this way are not okay with it being taken outside of, let's say a text conversation,
right. Yeah, I mean, I
or
think it also depends. Like, if you're their fantasy and this is
yeah,
their opportunity, right? Like, you know, I do have people approach me at the gym, especially older men, and it's usually in the locker, and it's like, hey, I like your work, but it's never, they're never asking for my number or nothing. It's just more like low key, like, hey, just so you know. But you would never tell, you would never know, they just, I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah,
I don't know. I like it because there's just a whole culture around it. There's a whole culture around the gym aspect of that, like the horny and testosterone and filled, pump that like it's that manly urge, right? So a lot more guys, I feel like it's a lot easier for them to be there. Your pheromones are, you're releasing all these pheromones working out. So it's like if it's a man attracted to a man, he's gonna feel those pheromones. He's gonna, be attracted to that. And so
mhm.
I just feel like it makes it easier for guys to, I don't know, almost like when people have like the drunken courage or whatever they call it. It's like that, oh, I got so much testosterone pumping and that guy's doing it, all this, I'm feeling it. Like now I might want to act on it because I'm feeling that rush.
Yeah, I mean, this has tetherings to so many things, socially and otherwise. Definitely, given that I'm part of the millennial generation, I've seen Gen Z and millennials as well, and not only those two, but some since they're like the two, I would say the two forerunners for what's driving social change in this country, at least. They're not the only ones, certainly, but I would say they are the forerunners, given that they're going to be inheriting a lot of the things that we're seeing that have been enacted by the older generation. But when it comes to social stuff, I have seen so many younger and younger men and women where they, and this is, this is not breaking news, but they have certainly a more of an acceptance for what, being more open about talking about, having, just commenting on a, let's say, if, in this case, it's a young, um, or a younger guy, like in his early 20s, he'll talk about, oh yeah, like I think that guy's good looking, or a girl will say that as well. And there isn't sort of that, they don't feel sort of, I'm just sort of like anchoring this, where you're still going to have people that are what we're referring to just now, where they feel however they feel and why they're not okay with it being open, but they'll talk about it with you privately or in a conversation or in a text message. But then for every one of those cases, I think there's a lot more that are more willing to be like, yeah, I'm attracted to both, or are more fluid. We certainly see a lot of that now, where
Yes.
people are a lot more fluid and be like, yeah, I like both, or they haven't even really, they're just like, yeah, I like what I like.
And I think that having that people who are more open now is what
Uh,
makes our kind of job easier to move into the safe work space. And ultimately for me, that's like one of my main goals is to, the normalization of our blue collar work, right? It's we're a force that should be unionized, that pays taxes, that has teams of people like the Free Speech Coalition, has these groups that fight legal, corrupt legalization against the right of our free speech online to be able to do what we do, which is completely under attack now, obviously, with this administration, and it's only going to get worse. And so it's important to have that and have these voices and everything. And that's honestly the whole point, is to get people to feel more comfortable, accepting us for what we do, and letting it be something that's normal. You just don't have to subscribe to it if you don't want to.
yeah, I think it would be a missed opportunity to sort of touch on that because there's like there, politically and otherwise. But I'll just start off by asking this, because I feel like, questions like this are just so, sometimes the best questions are the most short. Like there's, do you think that America now, and I'm only speaking from the American perspective because that's the one that you and I both know well, do you think America will ever be okay with porn? Truly accepting of it. So let me maybe make that a little bit more better phrasing. Do you think there'll ever be true exception of it, or do you think it'll always be more or less um a sort of, reference thing without, because, anyway, I'll let you answer and then we'll go from there. Sorry.
I don't know if it will ever be fully accepted. I think that so there's a lot more people that don't care, I think, than do care about making it harder or unattainable, right? Or unavailable for people who want that, right? It's the freedom of choice. And so people, you know, in full support of what we do, or any of our government bodies are really going to be like pushing for that, right? But there are benefits for them in it. And then obviously there's also the negative side of it, which, you know, there's always going to be where they claim that they'll associate our business with sex trafficking and all that other stuff, that's actually illegal and wrong. But what we're doing is obviously fully legal, and we do all of our compliances and everything, and everybody's vetted and tested and all that kind of good stuff. So it's like, yeah, we're doing it the way we're supposed to legally. You've created the hurdles, right? So we follow the law every time that there's been a new hurdle created, or a new stipulation or a new memorandum or whatever that would be on our business. We're doing it, and we're following, the rules based off of the legislation and the laws the way they're written. So I don't know. I just think that as long as they allow it to just be there, and they can keep the laws in place, and they're making, with the new age verification law that they have now, I'm not really that upset about it. It just means that, I mean, the worst part about it is that you have to put your ID up into a database. So then it's almost like, okay, all of these places are going to be able to collect all these people and be like, oh, look at all these Americans. We can kind of like figure out who's all consuming porn and where. I don't like that aspect of or possibility of it, but if they can figure out a way where they're not actually holding on to your information like that and they're just doing it so that people know you're 18 and over, then I'm fine with that. You know, like, and then it
Right.
allows us to continue our business. Because I'm like, I already comply that in that manner. And I only want people to be looking at my porn that are 18 and over too. I don't really want, even if I don't know and it's unbeknownst to me, I don't want people of younger ages having that exposure. That's why I'm glad there are safeguards because my content is for adults. So, it's important that it stays that way.
Yeah, yeah. I think anyone who thinks rationally about this and other things fully supports, as do myself, and as you just indicated there, that adult work is for adults, should only be consumed by adults, and verifying people, I think, who not only view it, verifying their age and all that, and then also people that that are doing filming the work themselves, their verification is also important because I think we all maybe somewhere remember like the Wild West days of OF where you didn't need to verify, you just filmed with someone and you did not need it. I mean, if you tagged them at all, whatever, that was fine, but
Well,
then they
yeah, not
implemented
even
that.
not even just OF. I mean, OF is the most recent, right? I mean, you used to have
Right.
X2, PornTube,
Sure. Yeah.
A2,
Yeah.
all those other places.
Yeah.
There was no verification, and
Yeah.
a lot of times you'd have the
Yeah.
straight guys that would be on there with masks on and full head covers and fucking and doing all the, and still making like all the, porn where they don't have to be seen, and stuff like that. And so, like, I'm glad now that, we obviously have a system where nobody can say, hey, they're doing it this way and this could be illegal or this could be wrong. You don't have
Sure.
to show your face, but you just have to at least prove you are who you were and that you're legally
Yeah.
of age.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and yeah, it's that to me seems healthy, and that makes sense. But as you made reference there a little bit too, I especially given the current political climate, I can't help but think that given with this implementation we're seeing legislatively of people having to just to view it, they have to register and put they're like aggregating this list, if you will. I can't help but feel, or not feel, but think that there's something a little more sinister going on because that aggregated list. I mean, I think anyone, irrespective of their political leanings, would say you're not just compiling names just to have them.
Right.
It feels like there's something a little more sinister going on, especially given where we're seeing large swaths and rollbacks of so many things that have made progress over the last 20 years and even 50 years when it comes to Roe v. or 60 with Roe v. Wade.
Well,
Feels Go ahead.
why all that's happening, right? It's like, which was laid out, the plan was laid out before,
Mhm.
this administration came in on what their plans are to do for the next 4 years. And it was called Project 2025. And it laid out all the different things that they've been doing, from budget cuts to job cuts to deregulation of industries like the banking, the oil, the EPA, and all this stuff, which just almost every industry can now go back to barbarian, style,
I
like
don't I
ways
think
to produce our products and shit that can cause us more issues and cancers and whatever, just because this makes more money. They can cut more corners and all this. And in that Project 2025 they talk about porn. They talk about how they want to ban it all outright. They actually not even want to ban it, they want to make it a crime. So you have to think that if all these other things that this Project 2025 is doing, and the guy who's running it right now is running the Office of Budget for the United States, he's the one who's calculating all the cuts. He's making all the budget cuts. So eventually they're going to come for porn. It's just when down the timeline are they going to really come for it, right?
yeah, if it totally feels, and I think that's a given. I think anyone who's thinks otherwise is just not paying attention. And it has this, if I can make a literary reference or a cinematic reference, it feels like the Eye of Sauron just hasn't yet cast its gaze
Yeah.
over that, but I feel like it's only a matter of time before that eye just makes its discerning look right over to this part of the sandbox, if you will. And then they do that if they haven't been doing, I mean, they've already been doing it on the state level with these. things. And so I think that's only just going to not only have an uptick, but it's going to be more openly done. And it has, not that I think this is the only reason, but it has a religious stripe to it where the people that are religious who have never view people that do adult work as anything more than people that are sinning,
Yeah.
people that are committing to the corrosiveness of the country. They are people that need to be not only, as you indicated, not only people that need to be sequestered off, but they need to be punished, which is the more amazing thing to be sort of taking away from that. It's one thing to say, hey, I have a problem with this. It's wholly another to say, not only do I have a problem with it, you need to be punished for
Right.
it.
Yeah, it's a control thing that and people feel like it's important for that because they think it's a battle between good and evil, which it's not. Mostly just you've decided and judged, which is something else that you're not supposed to be doing, but you're judging all of these people and putting them in a place where you think that now we need to legally be held accountable for our sexual freedom. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. So I do want to say though, just since we're here, what makes like so many causes, and we're seeing this, this is again not breaking news. We're seeing a lot of people that are, let's say, they're more well known, they're famous porn actors or whatever. Or even if they're not, they could just be, amateur, whatever. The people that commit to these litigible, morally repugnant things that do or that are part of the same world, whether they engage in, sex trafficking or they engage in, criminally offensive things. They just completely undermine the progress that is made because the people that are trying to get this stuff banned and for the people that are a part of that world prosecuted provides the perfect, not scapegoat, it just provides the perfect example so that the people that are against it can show it to the people that otherwise maybe wouldn't necessarily care about it or be that fearful of it. Say, this is the people that do this, they're sexually deviant. They're trying to come for your children, they're pedophiles. And for the people that unfortunately that are part of this world that have done that, that's what makes me loathe them even more because we hate them too, just morally and just as a person on an individual level, but also as someone that has been a part of this world. It's like we're lumped in with these bad actors, with these criminals who have done really bad things. And it just undermines all the work and progress we're trying to do when we're just out here trying to live and survive. And we're doing it the legal way, and we're doing it, and we're observing all the laws. Does that make sense what I'm saying, or do you want to comment
Yeah.
on that? Because I know there's a lot there that I threw at you, but yeah,
No, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a strategy when it comes to, I would say, right-wing commentary right now, and I'm not gonna lie, the conservative media machine is dominant. They've been able to manipulate people's idea of regular media and news, right? People don't want to go to the normal news sites anymore. They've been pushed to the fringe environment, which is X. X is like the number one source of news for so many different countries now. And that's so bad because most of the shit that is on X is a bunch of garbage. It's a bunch of just memes and fake news and other like random shit and a lot of opinions and hate and stuff like that. And so people go there to get their news because they want their news like this. They want it every second, something new. They hate that the regular media sits and cycles the same news stuff all day, right? It's the same thing. They're like, no, I need new stuff. There's new shit happening all the time. So the conservative media created this huge like mega machine of podcasters, commentators. They took over X with Elon for a while. They've now gotten even Zuckerberg to bow down, and they've taken over social media. They've taken over the conversation. They have now created the propaganda machine. And so from there,
yeah,
Everybody that's in their regular
Yeah.
homes listening to this, Fox News is one of the most broadcast things in people's homes. All they're getting fed is a bunch of garbage opinions and fear mongering stuff that makes these people think, oh, they're coming for you. They did it with the immigrants. They're coming for your children. They're coming for your jobs. They're going to do it for the same thing with porn. Oh, they're pedophiles or they're immoral and they're going to try to have your daughter and try to lure your daughter to OnlyFans. They're going to demonize it to fear people into what submission of their vote, submission of the guilt that they'd feel if they didn't do what they think is right, right? Oh, God's gonna punish me. Some random guy on the internet told me that God's gonna punish me if I don't do this right now, so I better do it. And it's like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, why does he matter so much to you on the internet? Who is he? Who cares? It's the same like Joe Rogan or any of these people. Like, who cares? You don't know none of these guys personally at all. But you favor their opinion so much more than concrete evidence and facts. Like we've moved just into sensationalism garbage on the internet. And whatever somebody can confirm, you believe. If you believe a lie, as long as enough people online confirm that you're lying and they love it and they praise you for it, you'll never believe that you're lying.
Right.
It's bad. It's like, and that's right now is the conservative machine. It's taking over the world. It's not even just America. It's like so many countries are having the same issue where immigrants in Europe, and Canada with they were worried about the leftist government winning again and they started pushing against them. And it's our conservatives in America, those podcasts
Right.
and everything, that are starting to do that to the whole world. They're just like, we need conservatives, we need these like Christian crusaders pretty much all over the world fighting for the righteous fight against secularism. And it's like the world doesn't work on that. It works on secularism because it gives people the freedom of choice. And that's what's the most important. And that's what God gave everybody too. So it's like the people have the right to choose what they want. It's not up to you to dictate what they have to do. It never will be.
And among other things, and the irony is that, I mean, how many examples could we supply, just anecdotally or otherwise, where the people that have been the most vocal critics of this community, in this case, the adult film community, are the ones that partake in it.
Yeah.
And they do it, surreptitiously, of course, or
Here's a
even
fact
not. Go ahead.
that you can have out there on this podcast, which is already out there, but the RNC, anytime the RNC, the Republican National Convention, has their event, it doesn't matter what city it is, it breaks the grinder amount of like
I've
traffic
heard this, yeah.
for that weekend. Every time, and no other time is there more people looking for boys during that moment, during those moments each year. It's crazy. But these are the exact people going, these are evil people and these gay people don't need to have their rights and we don't need them to have marriage and da 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 da. But you're having the gay sex. It's interesting. I don't understand. But you get to still have that. Because even if you took the rights away from them, you would still get that. And that's the sad
Right. Yeah, and again, not that an anecdote is meant to upend, everything, but like I forget I think he was a senator.
I mean,
That
I'm not
not
saying
a
who
not a
he is, but I know. I mean, they call him
there.
Lady Lindsay.
Well, no, not him even, but yes, we've heard the all of these all of these things about Senator Lindsey Graham. Yes, but I don't remember this. I believe he was another senator or a representative. He was an older gentleman. He probably still is a member of Congress in some respect, if not still an elected body. But he had voted against many different bills that would have helped progress the LGBT community and its protections, but he voted against them every time it was up for any type of voting measure. And then come to find out this person was, I believe, on the floor of Congress messaging some barely legal kid and having these just messaging like freely commenting on his posts like, "Oh wow, you look great. This guy's married with children."
Well,
And
what's
he's
even worse?
commenting. Go ahead.
There was a senator in Tennessee. He resigned once it became public. Someone took a video of him at a gay club in Mexico. And he was getting a boy. He paid a boy to lap dance him or whatever, and take
Oh
him in the
wow.
back room. And so there was
Yeah.
video. So he had to resign. Because
Mhm.
it's like you can't say you weren't doing it. And then he was somebody who's like been voting in Tennessee to keep, anti-LGBT laws and all this stuff and anti-trans laws. But here he is at the gay club in Mexico thinking that he's getting away with it.
I mean, I'm actually surprised to even hear in this current, climate that even with video, he resigned. Most of the time, even with video evidence or anything factual, there will still be so much spin
Be like, it's
that
AI.
sure something. Yeah, it's because I do think that it's more important now, despite all people, especially on the right, claiming that it's famously they'll repeat this axiomatic phrase, even though I think a lot of them don't necessarily even adhere to it conversationally or otherwise, but that facts don't care about your feelings. I don't think anyone, I think a good number of people that are well intentioned, that are intellectually honest, do care about facts. But I think the vast majority of people that say that are like, facts don't care about your feelings, they don't care about facts either. I have found they care just as much about feelings and inferences than they do facts. Because if facts truly were as important as the people that repeat that claim, then I think these conversations would be going a lot differently, and we wouldn't have people's livelihoods and we wouldn't have jackbooted thugs in the street just who are not identifying themselves, grab people off the street without any due process.
Based all off of looks, because it's all
Sure.
racial profiling.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too. But um to sort of because we actually touched on a few things there. Or actually you yourself did some a little bit ago. Um I'd like to know because it was actually one of my questions. I was going to ask this a little later, but since it was something that was mentioned, I just want to ask it now. What is your opinion on, let's say, OF creators or just anyone who engages in adult film work? What is your opinion on, like, I'm sure you've seen or you're aware of people that go to like different countries, right? And they film with over the course of however many weeks or a week that they're there, they'll film with, dozens of models. How does that strike you? Because there has been criticism of that from people, and the criticism, is I've seen it's just been about are they how are these people being accrued? Are they being manipulated? Are they being properly, um, compensated for their for their part in the making of the content? Are they being walk me through like have you given any thought to that? Do you think that's actually something an area of concern or what have you?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard this criticism. It's new to me. But
Okay.
I, for one, um, I work overseas quite a bit.
Okay.
I actually work with studios and stuff too in other countries. And so I think it just depends. Like when I work in America, America's the biggest market. It's by far the biggest market, followed by maybe it's like South America, maybe, and then like Japan. And so when I do studio work in Europe, there's just a different standard. It's a complete different standard there. Like testing is different, pay is different, all that kind of stuff is different. But
Hey, can I ask what those differences are, Tony, specifically?
I mean, I guess I won't say like what I make specifically
Yeah,
on
yeah, no,
the
not
scene,
specifically to you, but right.
but like
Yeah,
in
don't say that.
America, when I shoot scenes, like I've been in the game 4 years. I really started in 2022, like when I had my real first studio scenes. But 2021 is when I started really adult working, I guess. But yeah, just from there, I just kept working, and shooting and stuff. So I've shot, quite a bit. And so, what was your question one more time with that?
With models that go overseas, let's say that not necessarily with studios, but like they film for OF, and they'll go to different parts of the world and they'll film over the course of a week or however many weeks they're in these respective countries, mostly South America. I've seen like just there's been criticism of that, and I'd like to know if you have any opinion on that or if you're
I mean,
aware of that
so
or yeah.
specifically, I guess it just depends on who you're working with or what you're doing. Like if you're doing trade content, like OnlyFans to OnlyFans, I'm not expecting to pay anybody, and they're not expecting to pay me. So like it's usually just a trade for trade situation. So it's like now if I went somewhere to do studio work and I was shooting the studio work and I was a studio, if I'm normally shooting in America and then I go to another country and then I start normalizing like going to the other country to shoot all my stuff, then and I find out that those people make less money, then I feel like the company's trying to they're manipulating those people because they could pay them more. But for the most part, like I would say if it's a company based in those countries that someone's collaborating with or working with, then those models are used to that because it's whatever the price is over there is different. And every other country is less. It's less. I think that's what you had said. You had asked what the spread was. So in America, like I can make, I can do one scene with a company and make a whole lot of money because of the amount of time I've been in the industry. If I go to like Europe, compared to the money I'd make for one scene here, in Europe, I'd have to do like three or four scenes just because they pay a lot less. They don't have the same budget. They just don't. It's not the culture to do. They don't pay a whole. But there are companies that do go over to like other places, like in Europe, and they do pay the American rate, which is nice. Like and so like I try to work with those companies.
For obvious reasons, right? Yeah,
Especially in
for that.
Canada too. Canada's another big, porn hub in Montreal. And when I shoot with them in Montreal, it's always the same. It's the American rate they pay. So
Okay, okay.
and it's your rate. So it's like obviously a beginner's American rate is different than my rate. But yeah, I think nowadays it's a lot harder for studios to find people that are seasoned veterans because they don't have the budget really to pay them as much anymore due to the fact that OnlyFans has taken over as, the number one consumer for it and Pornhub. Like so people put their clips on Pornhub and then it's like, oh, come see the full videos on my OnlyFans. They want to direct you to their personal pages now. Everyone wants to direct you to their personal pages. I don't want to direct you to a porn company's page. Why? Only if there's an affiliate program where there's an incentive where if I put a link up, it gets me money for them signing up or something. Then I'm okay with promoting studio work, but I don't promote studio work with any companies that don't pay affiliate, that give me money for promoting the product as well.
This has been talked about since probably God, for studio work now. This has been talked about for many, many decades. What would be your answer to the question is should models that do studio work should they be paid? Forgive me if what's the word when they do scenes or they do movies, although it's mostly scenes these days. Obviously, some studios still do full on movies. Should they be given like actors or union actors? Should they be paid? Forgive me, what's the word?
Union
I'm
dues?
forgetting. Not a union dues. No, no. Should they be paid by the studio every time that movie is sold?
A residual.
A residual. Thank you. A residual of some kind. Should models that do studio work receive residuals from the studio?
In today's day and age, I think yes, before, yes. I think that would have been a smart move years and years ago. Now with OnlyFans and all this other stuff, I think it's better that you give me the rights to the content and then I sell it myself. You can sell it as much as you want because you have the ownership of it as well. But then now I have the right to it and I can put it on my own social networks. So maybe even just like, oh, the first month you can put it out, right? As the studio, you shot it all that stuff. And then you give me the copies of the photo shoot, the photos, or the video, the promos, clips, and I can promote it that way. And then we're tagging each other online, like on Instagram, we're doing collaborative posts. On Twitter, you're tagging me, and we're doing it like we're business to business. I'd rather do it like that. I think that that's
Okay.
way more lucrative and marketable than
Is it?
paying me residuals because they're moving away from studios. What's the residuals you're going to get? Honestly, are your residuals really going to be more than what you're making? If you're enough of a star power yourself and you're working with all these different entities, guys, girls, whatever your fan base is into, that means they're always going to see you, the one that they always want to see with all these different people. They should just be subscribing to you rather than subscribing to the studio to see you. And then they only just see you cycled in every however many times. They have to worry about the new movie coming out that they don't want to see either of the models in, but they pay that subscription price. So I think people are moving away from the studios. I think it's better it's more, I still would expect to get paid, right? Like, oh, we'll still shoot the studio scene. Maybe you don't have to pay me as much, but I would still expect to be paid for my time and to shoot it. And then if you gave me the rights and ownership of it, I'd be down to take somewhat of a pay cut because now I'm going to
Okay.
make it as a pay-per-view. I'm just going to sell it as a pay-per-view. It's a 4K full stream scene, from a studio. This is going to be a pay-per-view movie, and people are going to pay for it because they're going to want to. I don't shoot 4K. I shoot, most of my own work. I mean, only sometimes do I shoot 4K, but anything I shoot in 4K that's super like that and super high, I guess high production value, it becomes a pay-per-view. Just
I
because,
see.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Because I know that. Yeah, I see. You're referring to the historicity. Of that claim where that, sure, that would when studio work was the only way to receive that.
90s. Just think about the amount of money guys were making, like 3 or 4 times the amount of money that they make probably now per studio scene. Even some of the veterans, like the guys that are the top performers right now, they're not making nearly as much as the guys like Ryan Rose and those guys from before were making. It's it's slowly but surely keeps condensing and condensing and condensing, and they keep trying to figure out ways to pay you less. So it's like if you're gonna do that, you have to partner with the models. Like you have to. Your
Yeah.
business is dying. So you need us to keep your business alive. At this point, we have all the cards. We could strike, and guess
Sure.
what? Your studio goes down.
Sort of part and parcel to that is so. Um, you know, with residuals being one element of it, do you think that models should unionize? Or do you think that they ever will? And if they
I
do, would you?
always and will I will always be an advocate for unionization of this business. I don't know. I mean, there are small pieces and factions of it trying to build now. I just don't know how serious it is, right? Where it hasn't doesn't have the major backings yet. But the Free Speech Coalition is one of the ones that you can become a member of. And what they're doing is putting the money that you do, you put forth and support with to fight anti free speech laws or anti laws against like our right of expression and what we do. So that's a good stepping stone, I think, but it's not enough to me. Like I love having a place that fights and we have a legal, but that legal should be joining forces with a company that will create a union. Now, I think in order to have a union or to form a union or anything like that, I don't know how it works. I don't know if you have to have government approval or how all that works, but it's going to take some really powerful forces to lead it, to have to be in charge to lead it because you have to go against the government because then you have to go against the studios. You're going against everyone because we as content creators are gonna want more. We're gonna be fighting for more. So the studios, all these people would be fighting against it. They would not want us to unionize. It would never benefit them. And so, but it would benefit us. We'd be able to get protections against AI, like equal regulations in throughout the industry, right? The gay standard, the straight standard, the trans standard, all of it should be the same. This pass certified that makes all the decisions on the legal basis of if you can shoot or not. All of it should be the same. It should be different from one industry to the other. There's so many things a union could really do for us that we all collectively feel is important. It's just we have to get enough big name people to create that board, right? Create a major board that has huge influence. And then from there, you pull all the people in. Now we pull all the other creators. Now we get everybody moving. And I know people
Right.
that I feel like could really help start that. It's just oiling the machine. I don't know. And really
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If because I do agree with the observation that studios they are becoming more and more seemingly by the day more of a relic of a time gone by. They certainly have an audience. I'm not saying that they're completely without that, but certainly with the advent of OF and similar websites, the power, or at least perceived or not, has been given back to the individual model. If the power truly is theirs, it would mean, at least in my estimation, that the responsibility then lies with the models. And I think you just indicated that would have to be a coalition of certainly the more influential, more higher visibility models that would have to be the forerunners of this. Obviously, anyone could join it.
Right. You have to create a board. It's a board of trustees. Like you have to
Yeah,
create
right.
someone who's in charge and a board that oversees the person in charge of the organization. It's like
Sure.
anything. It's like you have to have the head of it. You have to have independent group of people that check and balance the head of it, and then all the business people underneath. You have the people that help push it. You have your legal, you have your, accounting, you have your volunteers, you have it's a whole thing. Yeah, you have to create, but it starts at the top of someone being in charge and an accountability team of people that also kind of are in charge, co-in charge as a group.
Sure. One of the couple challenges for that, now that we've established, who would have to be the people, putting this together, because again, just to be clear, the studios, I agree with you, would never be for this, and as they have not been historically, but also their influence would not be unremarkable or not, something to not consider, but it certainly is no longer needed.
I think they conform, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like anything. Obviously you're strong arming them, right? As soon as we take that power, it's either you can conform or you don't. And if you don't conform, well, this is all the regulations you're going to have on working with any of these people. So now you won't have an industry. You're going to be searching for newbies out there.
right.
So
Yeah, well,
you're gonna
right.
conform if all of their top models want this. And
Sure,
they still
sure,
have an avenue to make the money that they're gonna make. They just are gonna have to do certain things. They have to pay more money. There's gonna be less
sure,
money probably to make unless they are able to make more money with more reach. And that's honestly up to them. They can open OnlyFans.
sure,
They can do all these other things and still make money in other ways and do shortcut things, do trade agreements with people where they film everything. There's people out there that would be down with doing trade with a studio. Why not? It's just they'd have to conform. I don't see they'd have no other avenue. They can't fight it except for legally. Besides being like
sure,
we're legally fighting the assembly of this group, and we find it illegal or something, or we don't think it's
sure.
right. I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be the only thing they could do.
yeah. I think it may not be the biggest challenge, but I think it is certainly one. See, that would have to be probably one of the largest contentions for this ever happening. I think it's with the very models themselves. Models, I think innately, and this is just part of the business. This is what the business attracts, and also it's just baked into the grind of it. Is that it's a system that's all about trying to get as much as you can, financially. And it's about, it is very self-serving because you are selling yourself. You are the product. So when you're trying to get more eyeballs on you, it's not about conforming, and it's not about, I would say, a group. It's more about look at me, because I want to make more money. And for the top earners especially, I would be very surprised if not outright. Yeah, I would find it very difficult for the top earners especially, to say nothing of the people that make, middle and lower and less. I would find models, they would be like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm making 40,000 a month on OF. I don't Unionization sounds cool, but I'm making the money that I want to make. And,
And that's
you know,
fine. I think that the unionization would be more for your protections in studio work than it would be with OnlyFans. I think OnlyFans is more like you're creating your own business and it's up to you on the regulations of your own business, right? Whereas the porn studios, they're governed under, it's a totally different governance law than what people follow for OnlyFans. Not everybody's sitting there filling out consent forms and all this stuff for every one of their OnlyFans shoots where you have to do all these legal consent forms, sevens and all this stuff for every time you shoot a studio scene. So I think that the OnlyFans people would just tag along, even if they don't do studio, because why not? They want to fight for their industry. And it wouldn't affect them in any way negatively. It wouldn't necessarily affect them positively if they're not doing studio work. So it'd be more of finding the top people that do studio work to be in it more than the top OnlyFans creator. Because the OnlyFans creator, yeah, there's not really a stake in it for them besides seeing their industry succeed in something and win legislation. And that would be convincing from the people from studio work. Because that's the people advocating for unionization. It's the people that work, they have to work for somebody else. When you do OnlyFans, also you're working for yourself. So you can create a union, but you're unionizing against yourself. It would be silly, you
well,
wouldn't,
sure, sure. Well, then, yeah, that also brings up a good point. Is like, is unionization necessary now? Given that studios don't have the bandwidth that they once did, and if or could there be? And you're shaking your head, so I assume that the answer is yes. I mean, could how could OF parlay itself into a union type of situation, or do you think it's just what do you think about that?
I don't know if it will because unfortunately for something like OnlyFans, they are subject to their board, right? And their board decides what they legally can and can't do. Now, the credit card companies that are also on their board regulate if adult work is allowed or not. And for some time, they've been trying to get rid of adult work. They've actually been trying actively to move away from adult work and start doing more just streaming television, almost like a Twitch or something, where but you have your own channel idea, like, oh, you can do cooking or you can do DJing or you can do whatever. Like they are just trying to move away from the adult aspect of it more and more because these credit card companies have a problem with it. And so OnlyFans would never unionize because they'd be giving the credit card companies would be giving leeway and control away to a union, which they're not going to do because now they don't have full control of the regulation of the company. So OnlyFans would never. The most that OnlyFans could do is go public. I don't know if it's done that or not yet, but if it
It
does,
hasn't.
yeah, if it goes public, then there's a vested interest from the public because now we can actually invest in it. Now you'll never invest, there'll never be enough to invest in from the public to to have more shares than the company. Obviously, they're going to make sure they have 51% always. So you'll never be able to trump them. But at least the people would be able to start having a voice on where it goes and how it works. And of course, the people who's going to be investing in OnlyFans would probably be the adult people, the adult creators, the people invested in that business.
I was just going to ask, do you think the people, let's say, if OF did decide to go public, do you think that they have a responsibility to offer those initial public offering shares to the very models that have created their empire?
I mean, you would, that sounds nice, but I just feel like they do it to the highest bidder. They'd have a private offering to like Vanguard and some of these other ones, like the Russell 200 companies and stuff like 2000 companies or whatever. Because that way they can get someone who's coming in with billions and billions of dollars immediately.
Sure.
Then
Yeah.
they'll do an offering to the public, which they might promote to the people like that, right? Because they know that those are probably going to be their most solid everyday investors are the creators themselves. But they're going to want the big name companies coming in and buying 23,000 share or 23 million shares and whatever. They're going to want the big name companies to keep them, to hold that, to have that hold, which also gives them leverage. So I always think that the conglomerate companies will always, beat out the everyday person when it comes to the stock market.
Okay. So models are fucked. Is what I'm
Yeah,
getting
if they go
from you.
public, I mean, it'll be nice and all, but then also,
Mhm.
too, what if one of the banking companies decides to invest heavily in it and says, "We don't want porn on this net on this anymore"? What happens?
Sure.
We
Sure.
could dump 50 million shares right now and fuck up your whole, And it's like, whoop. So it's like either way, it's kind of like privately they're fucked. It's fucked in a sense, and if it goes public, they might get fucked too because people
Yeah.
want
I don't.
it to not exist.
I don't think they would ever go public for a variety of reasons, and you've cited a couple. So yeah, I don't think they ever will. They don't need to. Certainly financially, the people that have started this, they have made
Yeah, I mean, the guy who owns it.
unspeakable amounts of money. Okay, well, just shifting gears here a little bit. Although it seems a little kind of odd to be doing it after seemingly we've been talking for over a little bit of over an hour now. I did want to talk to you about when I briefly had met you in person a few weeks ago for the first time. You had talked about growing up, not growing up, but getting your licks in, as it were, in the adult entertainment world in Atlanta. And Atlanta is a uniquely equipped city here in the United States, especially given that it is one of the few, if not really the only American city that has embraced strip clubs, both female and male. And it is a city that, among other things, is known for its nightlife, but specifically strip clubs. Why do you, and you yourself, correct me if I'm wrong, not grew, I keep saying grew up, worked in that scene.
Yes.
Walk me through that, and why do you think Atlanta is the city? that has that? And would you like to see other cities have Atlanta's embracement of that culture?
Yeah, okay, so like a little bit of, I guess, history for me. My first
Eh,
adult content endeavors were in Atlanta. I had moved from LA to Atlanta. I was actually writing music for film and television. So I got hired by a team out of Nashville, and I didn't want to live in Nashville. I'm not a country guy. So I was like, oh, it would be nice to learn the history here, but I want to live somewhere where I write music for, hip hop, rap, R&B, and pop, right? So I was like, well, I can live in Atlanta. There's huge black influence. There's a lot of culture and history to the city. I really wanted to learn about Martin Luther King and other things, a lot of the other civil rights movement history that happened there too. So I was like, this will be a great spot, right? And as a black man myself, it's nice to come to a place that seems to be black owned, right? Like a city that has a lot of black established wealth, which we don't see very much of that here in America. So I moved there, and the first friends that I made were in the gym. We were talking about the gym earlier. And one of them happened to be a stripper, and he was doing underground stripping at this like all black event that they did at this club. It's like super sketch club in the hood. And I was like, okay, I don't know, can I do this? And then I was like, yeah, so you should come one night. Like, and they were making all this money. So I was like, okay, cool. So I showed up. They even had outfits for me. They had underwear. It's like, different things for me to wear because I wasn't prepared. And I come to find out, like, there's like a whole room of people playing spades. And then there's a whole other room of just like twerking and money flying and ass and like people just getting down. There's a DJ, there's drinks flowing. I'm like, oh, and this place is open till like 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning. And I'm like, okay. And so, like, yeah, I mean, me being the fresh meat, the new guy or whatever, everyone had seen all the other boys. They had been coming there. So I was the fresh new hot thing. So I was like, I was making all this money. Everyone was getting all this attention. So I started doing it more and more. I was liking it. I was like making all this cash. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I moved into eventually got offered to come to strip club, the actual strip club, not underground anymore. And I was like, I want to make more money. I want it to be more commercial, right? And so there's Swingin' Richards, and then there's this other place called BJ Roosters. So I just was like, well, fuck it. I just need to do both. And you had to get a stripper license. Like you would go and pay like $400 and you get this stripper license, and that gave you the right to strip in the state. And I think so. The culture there is amazing. Like I've done regular strip clubs, like not regular, but like I've done the all male review strip clubs, and then I've done the female strip clubs like Magic City, and some of these top ones that everyone knows about, right? And it is a really big culture there. People that go every weekend and fill out these strip clubs and just get down, party, hang out with their friends, do all that stuff, and they do it just at the strip club throwing money. So it's a super cool culture that you don't see very many places. And I do wish that they did that more. It was more open legislation like that. But unfortunately, in Georgia over the years, due to more of a religious push, I would say, in the judicial branch, they they've been stopping strip clubs from being built, and they're also getting them shut down.
I've heard this. I've heard
Immoral
this. Yeah.
or whatever. I've heard judges that lived in areas where they did not want that strip club to exist anymore. So then they made sure that a lawyer brought a lawsuit that they could pick up in their office to make sure that the place doesn't get approved or whatever, right? It's all a game of whatever. They're all playing the game where they shop lawyers or they shop judges and they put it wherever they need to get the law to get the ruling they need. So they've been having that issue lately. Like Swingin' Richards got shut down, gone, and then BJ Roosters, it's still there, but it's the only place now. It's the only male place you can go to, and so all the strippers moved there. So that means that place is way oversaturated now with all these guys. So they're fucking up that culture there, the government. But I wish
Has to
LA
has to
had something like that. I do really wish
Sure.
it had something
Yeah.
like West Hollywood Strip where you could even just go-go dance. Not go-go dance, but like you can have back rooms. You don't even have to get fully naked. But you can have a back room area where people can get lap dances and all that kind of stuff, and you can make real good money just giving lap dances. It's crazy.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I used to dance in nightclubs, and I remember years ago when I went to Vegas and I was going there regularly. It was very similar in Vegas. You had to go down to the police station, you had to, get an ID that allowed you to legally perform lap dances. So at least they had that. But what's funny is that even in Sin City, barring some exceptions that were grandfathered in because they predated the legislative overhaul or law where alcohol and nudity cannot be under one roof. There is still in Sin City, you cannot, you cannot see fully nude strippers, male or female, and also have alcohol being served unless it's like a topless bar or something like that. But what I find so incredible is that in the Bible Belt, in a southern state, there lies in Atlanta an embracement. Although obviously, as you just indicated, there has been some legislative rollback, and the stymieing of new establishments that otherwise would probably be open, if not for the intervention of people who are trying to forestall that for their reasons. It was always fascinating to me that not only was it in a southern state, but it was this embracement not just by a historically black city, but by a state that has steeped in religiosity. And it was always amazing, that it's no other place in America that has that kind of acknowledgement and celebratory nature around strip clubs and nightlife. Nothing like Atlanta, and you got to experience that and work on that. So I just thought I still think it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I've got to work in a lot of different areas of the country. And I've seen a lot of different types of, Americans, I would say, and cultures. And the South is a very interesting place. I'll tell you that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, it's much slower than other places. I feel like than in the North or in the West Coast, even though West Coast is more laid back. The South is just late. And there's a
There's
great
a
deal of
great deal of
hospitality, which is amazing, which is great. Like I love that. Your neighbors, you're gonna know your neighbors. You're gonna have fellowship with them, that kind of thing. But man, there is a night and day when it comes to it, from the niceness to the not so nice part of the South. When I first went to this place that doesn't exist there anymore, another gay establishment that got shut down, but they found out the owners were racist and that the public statements had come out, so they ended up selling their place. But it was called Burkhart's. And it was this place that had been there for years. History, super, super well-known history. I went to visit Atlanta before moving there. And I was like, well, let me check out the gay neighborhood and see like some of the places. I went to like Joe's on a Third, and I went to Blake's on whatever, and I went to all these different places, and I got to this place, Burkhart's, and I was sitting there at the bar, or I ordered a drink already, and this guy comes up, this older gentleman, maybe he's like in his mm, late 60s, maybe, and he just like asked me if he can give me a drink, and I'm like, oh, I just got myself one. It's like completely full, brand new. I don't need one. I'm like, oh no, I just got myself a drink, and then he literally said, well, I'm just gonna go find me another nigger boy, and it's like, whoa, that's interesting, and it's so open. It was just so open and bold.
just for clarification, was this a white guy saying this?
Yeah. I mean, it was like, I
Okay.
mean, it was like that old white Southern mentality. It's like you know, it's less of, I'm just gonna use something derogatory towards you when I don't get what I want, right? And the easiest target for me was, I'm a black person, so then he can use the N-word. It was his most derogatory way of addressing me, because I didn't want to get a drink. It wasn't like he even asked me to dance or anything weird. It wasn't even anything. It was just a drink. You could have just walked away. But some people, I don't know. The South that's what I'm saying. The South is an interesting place. It's a mix of great people and just very bad people.
What was your response to him, if I may ask?
Just laughed, and I was like, I don't know. I just was like, I was like, what? I think I said what to the guy,
Yeah,
and then he was already walking away. So it was just more like,
I see.
he didn't look back at me or anything after that. And I turned to the bartender. I was like, I can't believe he just. And then the guy was like, what? I was like, that guy just called me the N-word. So it was an interesting situation. So that place,
That-
the owners had,
Sure.
like, I mean, what sucks is like the owner sold it. So it's like they made a bunch of money off of a sell of a place because they did wrong, or they were found to be racist as well. And they're letting racist people into their establishment to obviously, okay with that. Um, but then they get paid out. That sucks. It's
All
like you're
right.
not in the community anymore. You don't have a place that people are coming to and giving you money, but somebody had to pay you all this money so they can have your establishment. So they could change it. That sucks. You should have to sell it and not get the money.
So it was sort of like failing upward, if you will.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Mm.
No, I mean
Mm.
there's places like that. There's a lot of that in the South. I never really experienced that ever in Chicago, ever in North. I never really ever experienced that in LA. Never. No one's ever
Yeah,
told me the N word. I just never heard it here.
sure. Yeah, I've been to a couple cities and experienced their nightlife scene. And what's funny is the one you would think that would have the most burgeoning or the most obvious, besides New York, would be LA. And I've experienced all the big cities, with the exception of Miami. I really haven't experienced that one, but LA, and this is where people might, you know, I mean, I've been here a long time. LA's nightlife scene, it's not, it's comparatively speaking now, which, comparison is the thief of joy. So I guess if it's all you would say, oh, this is great. I mean, it certainly has some fun moments and it was fun when I first came here. But anytime, when I learned about Atlanta's, they stay, I mean, it's an East Coast mentality, because I danced and experienced nightclubs in New York City. So staying up until 4, the underground scene, the ability to, migrate to another club with ease as opposed to having to get into a car here in LA. Obviously, in West Hollywood, you can walk to any club, but yeah, it's just I just wish there was a city. Atlanta is the one that's the closest, and yeah, I guess there's clubs in I'm sure if you're aware, I think it's in Oregon and Portland where they have
Portland
yeah.
has quite a bit a good male strip club scene.
Yeah, yeah, they have that. I just wish there was a city that allowed for that, but we still have that law that's I believe it's just it's a state law where, alcohol cannot be served when there's nudity. I get the reasons for that, where it was meant to be at least a protection for women so that they weren't being, followed by drunks to their car after finishing a shift. And that makes sense to me. But I think with the advent of modern day security systems and the ability to have, and higher security and all that, I think it's high time we take another look at that and allow for these establishments to be able to be open so that we can have, the ability to, because they're an amazing time. They really are. Strip clubs are an amazing place for adults. Don't please do not bring your children anywhere near them, though. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, they're incredible. Uh,
Yeah, I mean the only other place, I mean, there's not really there's nowhere that you can do it completely nude really anymore. Because Swinging Rich
Even in Atlanta,
Atlanta and Swinging Richards was the place you could do that, and now it's closed. So to
I
be
see.
the Roosters, you had to wear underwear. Like you had to have like underwear, but you can go to the back rooming and get naked,
I
but
see.
you couldn't do it on the ground, on the floor in front of people. And even in South Florida, like Florida doesn't do it either. Like you have to, all the places. There's a few places I think that let you get nude, but it's in Wilton Manors though. It's not like Miami, it's in Fort Lauderdale, so it's a little different. But that's probably the best place to party is Miami. I mean, to be honest.
I've heard that Miami is experiencing a maybe not even experiencing. They've had a thriving nightlife for some time, and
It's
I
so
guess
easy to
it's
meet
getting
people.
yeah. I've heard this. Tony, I did want to ask because that's actually one of my questions, and I think maybe we even spoke about this, albeit briefly, when I met you for the first time in person. You brought up that awful anecdote. Not the anecdote was awful, but the gentleman who was in it who called you a racial epithet, all that when you were working. Speaking of race, because there's an underpinning to a lot of this as it relates to adult work. I'm sure you're aware of some models, adult models, that engage in what is called race play or race domination. And I'm not going to mention who they are for the people that know, they know. I don't like myself platforming people that do that. But for the uninitiated, I'll just in general terms spell it out. And if you'd like to respond, I'd like to hear what you have to say. But there are models that are engaging in openly now. This isn't something where it's just private, engaging in race domination where they will use racial slurs either on their ex, or they'll use it in conversations with people openly on social media, meant to be this sort of role play where they will call a black person the N word. And these are white content creators that I've seen do this, and they'll do this to sort of market themselves towards a group of people that, you know. And what's surprising is that there are actual black people responding to this in the affirmative, and it's meant to sort of be like this role play where they financially profit from it. So, on its face, it's obviously a disgusting side to adult work, to say nothing of people engaging in and utilizing very heavily charged racist language for financial profit. What would you say is your, I don't want to put words in your mouth, what would you say is your opinion on models who do that? And what do you think should be the appropriate reaction, both from someone who makes content yourself, and also from the perspective as a black man?
It's a hard topic because um I don't I don't uh I don't think that they should be doing it publicly, I guess, for everybody to see, like if they're posting it on their X or something, unless they are want the backlash of the community of people who don't engage in that or don't want to see that. But I think first and foremost, what people should do is you just try to block those people. If you're not into that and that's not something that you want to see, block them. Because if they're getting backed up by people of that race that are okay with that, then I I can't really tell them they can't do it. It's not like it's illegal. It's bad. It's definitely bad, and I don't engage in it myself, but I understand that there's fetishes of all different types. And so for me, I just tell people to steer clear of those people. Like I don't want to see them, block them. And maybe you can post that, but after you block them, right? You block them and you show the post that they said and say, hey, if any of you guys are following this guy, I don't know if you knew this about them, but they get engaged in this. And if you're not into that, you probably shouldn't follow them because you're going to see it publicly. And, they're not ashamed of it. Just like people nowadays are just not ashamed of being fascist and racist and all that kind of stuff. It's way more embraced and open now. Like you have there's these whole like Jubilee. If you've ever watched the Jubilee one versus 20, you know,
Are you referring to the most recent Mehdi Hassan surrounding?
yeah. So I just watched that one recently, and it's like there's so much. It's not even just that one. That one's the most extreme, I would say, where a guy came up there and was just like, I don't care. Like, we need to have a Christian ethnic state, and we get to do what we want to do, and you don't get to do what you want to do because we're better than you or whatever. Or we're the more superior people, and this is what's right. And so there's so much more embrace of that. There's so much more celebration of it. The problem is that it's got so out of hand that you can't stop those people. All you can do is try to get rid of them out of your vision and try to tell people, hey, don't subscribe to these people. I wouldn't say draw attention to them specifically by tagging their name because all you do is drag yourself into something messy. Like then you end up with a whole internet mess. I've seen some people. I mean, I could name some people. I don't care. The big C man and his man. There's these guys that bought a ranch out here in LA, and they engage in that shit. And as soon as I found out that that's what they were doing, and they started doing it publicly, because obviously they were doing it privately, and then finally felt emboldened to be able to be like, well, let's just start posting this on our X. We have enough followers that want this, so we're willing to sacrifice the people who don't want it by posting it. And so I just was like, okay, goodbye. Get rid of these people. I don't know. It's hard because there are people buying into that. It's a niche. It's a niche, right? It's a
Sure.
kind of niche
Sure.
market that has been created. It's not a fun one. It's not a good one. But it is not illegal. It's not like they're raping children or something. You know what I mean? They're engaging in something that's frowned upon, right, in our civilized society. And so
Yeah.
people I don't like, but I can't. If people are giving them money, it's the gamble that they took, and people are paying it their gamble. I don't know. I don't have the right to tell them no. Like those people are giving them money. That's their money.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with you on everything that you articulated there. I'll just say, just to kind of just for my own part on this, I would just say, yeah, I wrestle with, or at least have wrestled with, how does one talk about this without giving, any sort of daylight to it? trying to draw more attention to it than it's worth, because I certainly I mean I think for me I found the most efficacious way of dealing with that without trying to raise its visibility is to address it in the way that I have without necessarily addressing the people committing to it specifically, because for me I don't think there's really anything that needs to be investigated further, more morally, ethically, intellectually, because when you engage in behavior like that, it's on its face is something that I find just so repulsive.
Yeah.
And I think anyone, again, and I agree with you that it is certainly under their First Amendment rights to engage in that. They are free to be as racist as they want, uh, to be as morally frivolous as they see
And you've
fit.
seen it. I mean, you
Yeah,
see the guy saying it to the guy, like, you need to leave this country. You don't
sure. Yeah,
belong here.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a white
It's
country. This country wasn't found on whiteness either. So it's
yeah,
like
right, right.
they've already embraced that this is now their country and everyone else needs to leave. And it's like that's the mentality is like that's the idea is like they don't care what the outsiders to them think. They've already doubled down. They've already committed. They're like completely committed on it, and they're not going to turn their back. They're only going to defend it. So it's like, why am I going to engage with someone I can never
Sure,
change?
sure. I mean, it sort of draws into question, sort of, when you start kind of, pulling back a little bit from from the specificity of this particular content. Not that I want to, but just to address sort of a macro thing is we have seen in relatively a short amount of time, only a couple generations removed from the civil rights movement and all that, where so much progress was made. Um, by Dr. Martin Luther King and others that were the forerunners of civil rights for Black people. And then in and around that same time, we saw LGBT rights to start to take a foothold socially and all that. And we have seen only in relatively a short amount of time, only again, 2 or 3 generations is a blip in time, even for, one human lifetime. It goes by so quickly. And we're already seeing a rollback of that. So I have to ask you, do you think that's an indication that there was always this permeating undertone that only was sort of like it was a dragon that just kind of went to sleep and has been reawoken, socially speaking? Or do you think it is just a combination of that and people being sort of spoon fed, which we talked about at the top of this, conversation, spoon-fed these endorsements and these half-truths or things close to that, or if not outright lies, and people just sort of with no shame to speak of, and with no intellectual honesty to speak of as well, they fully embraced it because they've started with a conclusion and they work backwards from there. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, what I think is that obviously racism never died. The public appeal and acceptance of it died for a while, right? Like it was not something that people were openly able to do without getting fired and other things. There's so many repercussions, right, for being racist. After the civil rights movement, it made that much of a progress. And so then I think the pendulum swung all the way one direction, and then life went on. And then as we moved into the 2010s, we moved into this Obama era, right? The era of Obama after Bush. Towards the second term of Obama's time is when people really started to get the racism started to become more accepting again. Fox News, television shows, news anchors, podcasters, right-wing influencers, people that were just anti-black were coming out and being like, we're talking, we're being open about it and being like that. And Donald Trump came into the field. And then he came with a mouth that no other politician ever had at that point. Nobody talked like this guy. And so those people that were racist, that had been left behind as like, middle America, poor, impoverished, uneducated people in all these like rural areas, right? They didn't have that voice of the country. Now this guy comes and he talking like how they talk. He starts insulting people. Now they like that. This is entertainment, it's comedy. And then on top of that, he started embracing the things they wanted. So those lost people started to feel emboldened. Like, you're right. We have a voice. We have a right to be racist. We have a right to feel this way. We have a right to be prejudiced. We have a right to be against LGBT. We have a right, for all these things. And it just really started emboldening that. And so the messaging changed. Legacy media, the idea of how propaganda and media move changed to attacking and opinions, just opinions and opinions and attacking people and opinions. There was so much opinion about Obama when he went in, like by Bill O'Reilly, Tucker Carlson, Fox News, all these people, that the way they demonized this man, like from being Kenyan to being
Uh,
Muslim to being, they had all the different ways to just shatter this man. He wasn't American really, but he's also black. His wife's really a man. Like they did everything to like just demonize this guy. Everything he did was wrong and bad.
and,
And then our politics
yeah,
started shifting that way. We went from like Obama and John McCain debating to like what we see today where it's all just disgusting partisan attacks on each other. They don't sit down and have common ground or act like they're even friends. They literally hate each other. Like we have two parties of people now that hate the other side. It's like that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not how we're
right.
supposed to work, right?
Yeah, and if I could just interject, I mean, you touched on it there. Donald Trump started his political career with the birther movement, where he was one of the strongest vocal critics of questioning President Obama's legitimacy as an American citizen.
And remember, when
And
John McCain was going against him in 2012, that lady stood up, and the clip
it
is,
was an
live
amazing
and
moment.
shown, and she was like, "No, I don't like him because he's a Muslim or whatever."
Yes,
And he
yes,
was like,
yeah,
"No, no, 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 he's not."
yeah.
He nipped it in the bud right there. No, he's not. He's a good man. He's a good American man. Like, he's not what you're saying he is.
It was an amazing moment where, someone that I disagreed on a lot of things politically with, that just spoke to not only the prominent audacity of a man who has been through a lot, was a war veteran, but was able to, even though he was actively running against then candidate Obama for the presidency, was able to do that during a debate. You'll never see that ever again.
No, now you got I mean, the guy who won questioned the woman's her damn religion or her race because she's mixed. That's like me. I'm half white and I'm half Italian, half black. It's like no
Mhm.
one ever goes and is looking and asking me if I'm about my Italian. I'm automatically black on everything, but it's not like I'm not Italian because I live a black experience. It's just this is the skin I'm in, so this is the experience I end up having with people. And it's for her, it's like, yes, it's not sometimes she's black, sometimes she was Indian. It just, you guys decided through news and other shit that this legislation made her the first Indian person and to do it, and this legislation made her the first black person to do it. That's why they were using those monikers. It wasn't just because one day she was black and one day she's Indian. Like it just
Yeah,
all these things now, it's like everything is so racial, and even today it's like the worst it's ever been with race. It's like people are so, they're cheering on the removal of anybody that doesn't look like them now. It's not even like really a worry of like, oh well, you're an illegal, well you looked like it, so that was an American
yeah,
citizen, and now
yeah,
we got to go through all
yeah.
this crazy fucking deportation. It has to be brought back to America now, and it's still held in captivity the whole time during this process, and you guys are still like, get them out of here, get those people out of here. I mean, I have family members that say that people who cross the border are sinners, and I'm like, who the hell are you to judge those people, to call them sinners? When did Jesus or God establish the American border as something that you sin if you cross it? I don't remember that in the Bible. So it's just like there's just too much nationalism now. It's turned evangelicalism into this, I don't it's like patriotism.
Yeah.
Not even about God anymore. It's about country, and it's silly.
Well, it's this cult of personality that has permeated Donald Trump's candidacy and his tenure as president now twice, where, yeah, I agree with you that it's this weird amalgamation of nationalism, religiosity, all framed under the guise that this is about protecting
They're
what's
saving
important.
something. They're
Yeah,
saving the
they're
world.
saving something. And again, this is a hallmark of a lot of dictators where it's just about they swoop in and win in a either a surprise or a landslide election. They question the legitimacy if they were to lose, or if they were, if you know, and they always run on this platform of, listen, you want to know why X, Y, and Z isn't working? It's because of this other that has been taking it away from you, and it's always a group that they need to latch it onto, and it adds tangibility so that they can easily launder and monopolize and just undermine that group so they can then have them removed. It's not lost on anyone who, again, has a working brainstem, that we're seeing the unmaking of our democracy. And anyone who doesn't take it seriously, because it's affecting all, what I mean, it may be different areas here and there in terms of its severity at the moment, but trust anyone who says that it will eventually come your way. That's why that moron, if I can be blunt, that was on that Jubilee video with Mehdi Hassan, who had this cognitive dissonance on full display, where he said, "Well, I am an autocrat." And when Mehdi Hassan, very correctly, who I think taught a master class in the ability to completely not only engage but able to dismantle people in the moment, which is, again, is a
My
tactic.
favorite part is when they
Go ahead.
say he wasn't engaging with them.
Right.
It's like
It's all
like he didn't want to
projection.
engage with us. He's literally sitting here engaging with you.
Yeah, it's projection at its most obvious. But when that guy who freely and openly, who I think was mostly trolling, although that doesn't give him a pass, was laughing along, saying, "Oh yeah, I am an autocrat, and yes, I am a fascist," and laughing. And then when Mehdi Hassan, among other questions, held his feet to the flame and say, "Well, how would you vote in the people that you would like to see do these things you'd like?" And he's like, "Well, it would be through an election." He's like, "Well, why would an autocrat have need for an election? And you understand that once that election happens, there will be no more elections." He's like, "Well, right, but I mean, and he's like, "Well, what if the autocrat comes for your family?" He's like, "Well, I'm gonna be protected."
I'm not going to be a part of the family that he's coming for, or I'm not going to be one of the ones he's coming for.
It's again, it's this very serious flirt. It's not even flirting now. It's outright embracement of fascistic mindset, and it needs to be taken seriously. And for the people that are checking out, and I understand why they are, they're like, "Hey, listen, what are we gonna do?" I totally get that. When we're at the mercy of all the things that we have, because when you're a citizen and you see people's rights being completely stepped on, and they're not even given them, and there's no observance of the rule of law, it is very tempting for someone to say, "Well, I'm out. What can I do?" They check out, they move out, both. For me, I think again, I'm not saying that what I do is the most efficacious, but I do think the way to combat it is to talk about it, and is to get people informed in the way that I do. And, people have every right to not want to comment on it. But yeah, there's so much there, and it has so much tethering. And you see so much overlap, Tony, with just the adult world. Like, I mean, I think every single or every single topic that we discussed today, it's the political pageantry we're seeing on full display is a backdrop to almost everything we're talking about. Whether it be the closure of Atlanta strip clubs, whether it be the social stigma, or at least there should be, of people that engage in race domination, and now the open embracement of, or at least the feeling of no shame to do that. And whether it be unionization, I mean, we see this backdrop. It's always there and always will be. And that's why I appreciate people like yourself, who not only are a part of the adult world, but are freely and openly willing to have discussions about it, because you would not, maybe you would believe me, it is very difficult to get people that do, or are part of this world, to actually want to talk about anything, because just either have no interest, or they don't see the value in it, and or they don't care about me. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk about these, because again, I got to probably 1/8 of the questions that I had written down, but we're now getting to 2 hours of us talking. I mean, I feel like we just started, but yeah, I didn't mean to kind of make that sound like an end. It's not. I mean, we're nearing the end here, but yeah, it's just sort of that was my summation of what we were discussing, because there's a through line there, and it's, how could it not be? I mean, it's happening. How can you not address it? It's right there. You know?
Yep. That yeah, it's like the young people have to get on board. You know, they have to realize that it's not going to be as easy and comfortable for you, maybe, you know, than it was for people before because you have people actively coming to get rid of what you're doing. And so, what's your plan?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, what is your plan? How are you engaging? Because to me, now is not the time to be checking out. And I understand that it's tempting. I understand the thought behind it. It's a very defeating time we're in. But what stops me from like embracing that is the idea that that is what they that is purposeful. That's what they want you to do. They
Yes.
want you to check out. They want you to be like they want you to roll over and be like, I can't do anything. The fuck you can't, you know? That is purposeful. That defeatist mentality, that was intentioned.
Yeah, no, there'll be a lot of people that fall, you know, that will just give up. But, you know, you hope that there's enough people that, you know, will fight to make sure that they don't lose, you know, what we work hard for.
We need more. We need more for every one person that's fighting the good fight and that is there to actually protect people's civil liberties and their autonomy, whether over their body or over their ability to vote and have free and open elections. Anyone who's been doing that and has been doing that, I champion them, but we'll always need more because there's always going to be people that always want to roll that back. And to see the unmaking of a country that as as imperfect as it is, with all of its faults, it deserves and needs to be saved from the people that are trying to ironically save it.
Right.
You know, who are claiming that they're saving it. So, getting off my soapbox, I guess I'll tidy up here with just one final, not question so much as this one little discussion to have with you. So I know with all that in the background, it's hard to have sort of a positivity or an optimism, but you know we certainly can have that, and I think it's also important to have things irrespective of what's happening that you can look forward to. And for yourself, Tony, I know that you know you're 4 years in the business. And things are really looking bright for yourself. What is the most exciting thing you're looking forward to that's happening in your career? And where can people see you next? I know you just did a Below Deck, right? That was that reality show.
Yeah.
So that if you'd like to comment on that, you're welcome to. But what is the next big thing in your career that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, a year ago in April, we filmed our Below Deck charter, and it aired last month in June at the end of the month. It's on Peacock or on Bravo. If you want to stream it, it's episode 3 and 4. We had a 5-day charter, all porn stars, excuse me, and we were just pretty much living it up. We were told to have fun, express ourselves, and kind of show, you know, a light side and fun side of our careers and what we do, and but also be wild and be naked. So it'll be fun to, you know, check that out because,
Yeah,
you know, even though it's
you
national
covered there.
television, we still have points of us where, you know, there's blurs and stuff. You're like, oh God. But other than that, after I did that, I've been just doing you know, a nice press run. I'm filming a pilot season for my own documentary. It's gonna be about me as a content creator, and it's just gonna go and follow me for a 10-day period, and it will be cameras with me 24/7. And so what they're gonna follow me, they're actually having me in London, and this is gonna be filmed next month. And so I'll be in London doing events. I'll be doing a nightlife,
Yeah, about
shopping,
me.
doing a collab, sitting down, you know, and just having like one-on-ones and heart-to-hearts with people about their careers and businesses, and just, you know, creating this whole like
Right.
humbling, humanizing experience for content creators and what we go through. You know, like there's ups and downs, you know, there's high energy, there's low energy, there's cancellations, you know, there's spur of the moments, there's so many different things in this business that a lot of people don't know about. And so I want to be able to bring that to life for people. So that's something to look forward to, probably more so in the new year. I have some trips coming up that I'll have new content coming out. I'm going to go to Peru and see Machu Picchu. That'll be in September. So I'm going to work with a huge group in Lima, Peru, who I'll be tagging and stuff and all that, but we're going to do some content together. That's going to be great. And then in January, I'm going to be hosting the 2026 Gay VN Awards. Yay. So they just announced that at
And
the AVN house party on Thursday of last week. star-studded event. Everybody was there. They also announced the hosts for the AVN Awards. This is the first time in history that the AVN Awards has done and is going to do a full press run for both the AVN and AVN Awards. It has always only been a full budget and press run behind the AVN, aka the straight side of the industry. This year, actively, they've been listening. And for the last few years I've been working with them, we've just been voicing how we don't like the separation, right? It doesn't make sense for our industries to be separated. Last year, they took a gamble and risk where they had the Gavian Awards on a Monday night before the expo began for the whole expo week. What they ended up getting was a bunch of negative feedback from the gay stars because we couldn't participate in the expo because all of the Gavian events already had happened that weekend. So there was no reason for us to stay for the following week to be a part of the AVN. So I'm glad that they're putting more budget behind it. They're expanding it and they're really trying to highlight the LGBTQIA plus community by representing us more. Those are
Awesome.
some things to look for me. If you want to keep in touch with me, obviously, the easiest way to do so is just go to tonygenius.com. That will have all of the different links from social to naughty to camming to products that I push and a bunch more, as well as my below deck and all that kind of stuff if you want to see more about that.
You're a good salesman, Tony. I just want to say again, congratulations. That all sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
Are you filming at Machu Picchu? No, kidding. No,
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 no.
no, no. I don't think they let you do that. And I would,
I think that
although that'd be an
I'd
amazing
have some
video.
real spiritual problems going on after that.
Yeah, yeah, you would. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, man, thanks again. We talked about a lot of really heavy things, but again, I like to end it with something more positive. And certainly, as a thank you, I like to give you a chance to plug, things that are coming for you. Because yeah, that's really exciting, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And when are the gay events again? They're in
AVN Awards are
January.
January 22nd,
January.
2026. The AVN
Okay.
Expo begins January 20th,
Okay.
and the AVN Awards will be 2 days after the GayVNs, the 24th.
Okay. Okay.
All
Awesome.
worth being a part of, for sure.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Well, my friend, much appreciated. I'd love to have you back on and you're welcome to anytime. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Dante. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome, man. Thank you again.